The Pirates are gone, the Brewers are next, and your Minnesota Twins appear headed toward an AL Central crown. Are we being too hasty? We'll talk about that today. This is Locked On Twins.
You are Locked On Twins, your daily Minnesota Twins podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, hello again, and welcome back to Locked On Twins. I'm your host, Brandon Warren, and you can find me on Twitter, though I don't think I would, at Brandon_WARNE. Thanks for making Locked On Twins your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, click that thumbs up, click that subscribe. We'd love to see you around these parts more often. We are, of course, also part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Also, be active in the chat on YouTube. We'll be happy to hang out with you, answer questions, ask questions, and that kind of fun stuff. Also, if you are on a podcast app, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever you are on, if there's a spot to leave a review, we would love to hear a 5-star review from you, or drop in these DMs and tell me how I can make the show better. Also, if you have questions you want answered on the show, we will have some of those here in the third segment. Feel free to send them over, whether it's at Brandon_Warren on Twitter, at Locked On Twins. Hit the DMs and all that fun stuff. And then we will also have post-game minutes for you on YouTube Shorts after pretty much every game. So look for that after the Twins play on Tuesday against the Brewers. We'll get to that in just a second. Today's episode is brought to you by the Gametime app. Create an account. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase and get last-minute tickets at the lowest price guaranteed. Twins open up a quick 2-game stop over in Milwaukee at American Family Field on Tuesday. It's going to be a 7:10 p.m. first pitch. Wade Miley against Bailey Ober. If you have not been keeping up with Wade Miley this year, it has been pretty solid, but not many strikeouts. So we'll be curious to see how the Twins face off not only against a lefty, because they've struggled against lefties, but a guy who doesn't strike people out, which has been the Twins' boogaboo all season long. 42 strikeouts in this Pirate series. We'll get to that in just a second. If you want to catch every pitch of the Twins' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app, you can do so. Just search Twins. So Twins coming off taking 2 of 3 from the Pirates. I feel like, we saw Guardians idle on Monday. White Sox lose bad. We really don't have to pay attention to their 16 games out. But Tigers 8 out, lose to the Cubs. And Twins up to 95.3% playoff odds, according to ESPN. FanGraphs pretty much right in that mix, 95.0% as well. And so that's why I kind of hinted, the Twins appear to be headed on the path of a division crown. We don't want to get too hasty. We don't want to get too out in front of it, but certainly the data supports that the Twins are heading in the right direction. Now, I do want to talk about the series, the Pirates series, a little bit here. The Twins won the games you would expect them to win. So the middle game was started by Mitch Keller, who, if you haven't seen much of him, may not be familiar with how good he can be. And the Twins, they let that game get away late, too. It wasn't as though Sonny Gray pitched terribly. It was just, things went sideways late. But the Twins did all they needed to do to beat Andre Jackson in the first game of the series and then come back with a stellar effort against Osvaldo Bido and the opener before him, Ryan Baroki, if I'm not mistaken. So the Twins won the games they were supposed to, lost to Keller, and it would have been nice to win that game, but if you were going to lose one in that series, Keller certainly makes sense. Keller strikes out 12, Twins give up 3 in the 9th, and that was basically the story. So, I'm not really sure what else to say other than, a couple of different things that frustrated me were some approaches by players. Royce Lewis had a plate appearance late, and I want to say it was in that middle game, maybe like the 8th inning or maybe the 7th. It had to do with, I think it might have been, this one against Thomas Hatch, leading off the 8th. So at this point, the Twins are down 4-3. Lewis is up 2-0 in the count, a cutter and a sinker. Then he swings through a cutter that I didn't think was a very good pitch, and then a sinker. He takes looking, similar location, then takes a ball, fouls one off, and then strikes out at a sinker in on his hands. And I just felt like the 2-0 swing to me just didn't make any sense at all. The cutter off the plate, not a pitch you're going to hit on. Maybe a 2-strike pitch, 2-2, 3-2, even 1-2 if you're protecting. I didn't understand the 2-0 swing in that spot. And that has been, to me, kind of the unsung issue with this offense, is that every time they're up 2-0, it seems like they either get a cookie that they take, or they get a breaking ball low that gets swung through, or a cutter off the plate, or a two-seam fastball running in and tying them up on the hands. I feel like the 2-0s that they've swung at, like they've just chosen wrong, like most of the season. And so that was a point of frustration to me. Balazovic comes out, gives up 3 runs in the top half, and kind of makes it a moot point. Twins with a little bit of a muster of energy at the end, but a Carlos Correa double play, same as it ever was, pretty much ends the game at that point. But there's still been too many of those plate appearances where a guy gets up 2-0, and then a couple ugly swings, takes a called third strike, takes a called second strike, swings at an ugly third strike. You name it. There's a lot of ways that the Twins have given away plate appearances this season, and it's certainly been a point of contention everywhere. I'm not exactly, trying to reinvent the wheel here, but I do want to see too. The Twins were second in looking strikeouts for the longest time. I hadn't checked recently. Twins are now first, 333 looking strikeouts. Only 3 other teams have more than 300, and none of them have more than 303. So the Twins have 30 more looking strikeouts than any other team. The Twins have 333 looking strikeouts. The Guardians have 869 total strikeouts. The Guardians have an MLB low 164 looking strikeouts. If you multiply that by 2, you get 328. It's 5 fewer than the Twins have. So the Twins have struck out more than twice as often looking this season as the Guardians. Now we got to talk about, we're talking about strikeouts. Let's talk about Game 3 of this series. Dallas Keuchel, as many of us have said, had a chance to do something very, very hilarious in this game. And, he went 6 perfect innings, gives up base runner in the 7th, and that was just kind of, the swan song for his day, the Brian Reynolds double. But the strike zone was absolutely dreadful. And, we have names we come back to quite frequently for these kinds of things. And Laz Diaz is on a lot of those lists. So the Twitter user Umpire Auditor, it's just how it sounds, said this of Laz Diaz's game. Again, Twins 2-0 win. Dallas Keuchel perfect for 6 innings. Twins bullpen hangs on, et cetera, et cetera. Here's what Umpire Auditor said. Laz Diaz called one of the worst games I've ever seen. He missed 20 calls, 4 of those were strikeouts, and 16 went against the Pirates. His stats were terrible, and somehow the video looks even worse. So I would recommend going and looking up at Umpire Auditor. The tweet that I'm referencing is a 1:36 a.m. on August 21st tweet, and it gives you a pretty good look at how sketchy the strike zone was. Now, if we go, the other one that I like is the umpire scorecard. And what that has is basically a grid that shows you missed calls and then, red for pitches that were called strikes that were not in the strike zone. And so there was a bat in the 7th where Dory Moreta walked Matt Wallner on a strike. In the 7th, Dallas Keuchel got Juwan Bay a strike on a 3-1 count. And then Joey Gallo in the 3rd inning on a 2-2 count took a strike as a ball. There's video for all this out there too if you want to go out and look. But 73% called strike accuracy. So 14 of 52 called strikes were true balls. 73% against a big league average of 88%. Comes out to in favor of the Twins by 1 run. I mean, I don't know how much that matters or not, but just a brutal job by Laz Diaz in that one. I couldn't let that go unnoticed. We're going to take a quick second here and talk about our friends at Gametime. And then I do want to look back at the series just quickly here with the Pirates for a couple of different things. Now, if you are stressed out and you are looking for tickets to the ball game, the concert, comedy show. I almost said music performance. Well, yeah, that's what a concert is. Don't be stupid. But if you're stressed out trying to find tickets, stress no more. Go to the Gametime app. You can look at events in your area, concerts, playoff tickets. I've been to a comedy podcast. I've been to a music show in the last few months, and Gametime is the best. It really is. It's the place for last minute deals. You need tickets, pull up the app. Gametime guarantees that you will get the best price possible. If you find the same ticket in the same section and row for less, Gametime will give you 110% of the difference. So it's the fastest growing ticketing app in the country for a reason. You know exactly where you're going to sit, buy tickets in seconds. You can snag the tickets without the stress with Gametime. Just download the Gametime app. Sorry, easy for me to say. Create an account and use code LOCKEDONMLB. That's all caps. That's all one word for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Now, offensively, in this series, the one thing I wanted to hone in on. Now, the Twins, last I checked, if you're listening to this, I checked on Sunday, and the Twins in the second half were like 4th in strikeout rate on offense, which again, not like you're going to celebrate it, but certainly better than it had been in the first half. So naturally, we'd be thinking, oh, hey, maybe there's some encouraging signs here, strikeout-wise. Then the Pirates come in, and the Pirates, I don't want to talk poorly of the Pirates because they're better than they've been, but, they're not going to knock you over with their pitching. Their pitching staff has struck out 8.79 per 9 coming into Monday, so 15th in MLB. And the Twins struck out 42 times in the series. In 110 plate appearances, that comes out to 38.2%. Now, if you want context, 38.2% might be hard to digest. Your brain tells you it's more than a third, less than 2/5. But what does that mean exactly? For the season, the top qualified hitter in strikeout rate, most strikeouts per plate appearance, whatever, is Jack Suwinski of these very Pirates at 33.7%. And the Twins struck out almost 5% more than that in a series that they took 2 of 3 games. Bizarre series besides. Twins had a 271 average and a 345 on base. So they took their walks, got their hits, but a 396 slugging percentage. So 1 home run, Michael A. Taylor homer in the series opener. Otherwise, no homers the rest of the series. Handful of doubles, 9 doubles. Only Kepler and Vasquez had more than one. But other than that, extra base hits were really hard to come by in the series. Twins score 11 runs total. And, take 2 of 3, lose the game that you would expect to lose. But just offensively, the power was lacking. The pitching was great. Twins allow 8 earned runs in 3 games, comes out to a 2.67 ERA, a .119 WHIP. More than a strikeout per inning. Honestly, biggest issue was 13 walks in 3 games. But nevertheless, good series. Certainly not. It's certainly understandable if people are frustrated that the Twins didn't get a sweep. Pirates have not been particularly good of late. But with that said, you just keep taking series the rest of the way out and really leave no chance for Cleveland to get back into this thing. And we've talked about, too, strength of schedule. And when I checked it before Monday's games, Cleveland is still in that top third for hardest schedules, and Twins still very easily in the bottom third. And so, again, if the Twins just take care of business like they're supposed to, there's really no reason that they don't take off with, a stretch here where they can really put some distance between them and Cleveland. We'll see what happens with the Brewers. Twins going into Milwaukee for 2 games, which we'll talk about here in a little more detail after we thank you for being our first listen every day. If you're an everydayer, make sure you check back. We have shows coming up with Pat Light. We are working on a show with Matt Cantorino, 40-man roster Twin guy. And also the surprise show that was supposed to record on Monday, but timing got off with a travel day. Carson McCusker, new Twins prospect signed out of the Frontier League, is going to come hang out with us on Monday of next week. So a little less than a week from when you're listening to this, if you listen right when it comes out. But we're going to talk to Carson McCusker on what it's like to be signed out of the Frontier League and just come rip-roaring into the minors. So it'll be curious to see what that looks like. But really, I'm really looking forward to talking to him. Twins Brewers at American Family Field on Tuesday, 7:10 p.m. It's going to be Wade Miley and Bailey Ober. Again, Wade Miley, lefty, not a lot of strikeouts, so it's going to be curious to see how the Twins address or attack that sort of repertoire. But you can catch every pitch of the Twins' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search Twins. Now, if we look at these upcoming pitching matchups, it's always weird, these 2-game series, to kind of break down what to expect. The Twins had a 2-gamer with the Tigers that they split, and you don't really come away with any strong feelings one way or the other. So it's Miley Ober, it's Corbin Burns against Kenta Maeda. So, it's 2 interesting pitching matchups that, I feel like you'd have to favor Burns over Maeda, but I could see a case for either way with Miley and Ober. Burns is absolutely fantastic. Is he as good as he's been at his peak? No. In 2021, he was a 7.5 win pitcher. By Fangraphs WAR, he's been worth 7.3 in the 2 seasons since. But this is still a really good pitcher the Twins are going to have to contend with. Kenta has been phenomenal since coming back. So I'm really curious to see, it's going to be a clashing of styles because Burns, big right-handed arm, big fastball, with Maeda being more of a command and control guy. And then Ober and Miley is going to be a command and control lefty and a righty who works up in the zone in the low 90s. So all in all, it should be an entertaining 2-game set. And then Brewers off after that. Twins get prepared to come home and take on Cleveland. But I think Texas is in here first, actually. I should be certain of that. Yeah. So they have Dallas Keuchel projected to start on Saturday. We'll see if that happens. They have Joe Ryan on Wednesday in the Cleveland series. So they could go Maeda, Lopez, Ryan in that 3-game set with Cleveland, assuming they don't bump anybody and if they keep Keuchel on his same rest. It's Keuchel Scherzer on Saturday as of right now. So could be an interesting matchup no matter what happens. But back to the Brewers, back to the Twins here. I want to get a kind of a feel for how they have played in August. Let's talk about the Brewers first, because even in the NL Central, the NL Central is not as shaky as the AL Central, but it's also not particularly good. So Brewers coming in 2.5 up in the division. They are one of 3 teams over 500 in the division. So it's going to be a 3-horse race. I mean, nothing I'm saying there is surprising. Brewers, Cubs, Reds in that order, separated by a total of 4 games. As far as injuries, Twins not really going to run into anybody. I mean, Jesse Winker's out, but he's been horrible. Garrett Mitchell's out, but he's been out for a long time. So Twins are going to see more or less the full complement of what the Brewers have to bring to the table. Trade deadline acquisition, Carlos Santana, Mark Canha. And then they're also fairly inexperienced at the bottom of their order with Monasterio, Terang, and Taylor. So it's going to be a lot of different guys that we haven't seen yet or have not seen that much of. So it's an interestingly built team, and that division has 3 teams over 500, but still no team running away with it. 68-47 for the Brewers, which would put them, if they were in the same division as the Twins, 2.5 games up. So it's not like they're running away so much better than the Twins if they were to play in the same division. But again, there's a reason why the NL Central is not getting the same hubbub about being so bad as the AL Central is. In August, the Brewers have 700 OPS as a team. They're hitting 241, 318 on base, 382 slug. Really, outside of Carlos Santana hitting a bunch of homers, the power has been kind of spotty. Nobody has more than 2 homers outside of Santana. And Santana, outside of those homers, has a 605 OPS. Their top 4 guys in plate appearances this month are Yelich, Contreras, Santana, and Monasterio. And the highest OPS of them is Contreras at 697. They have 2 players with more than 50 plate appearances this month at an OPS over 710. And it's Sal Frelick and it's Bryce Terang. You may remember Terang's father, Brian, playing for the Mariners very briefly in the 90s. But not a lot of production from the top end of this Brewers lineup. They have not struck out at all in August. 19.1%. It's like 4 or 5% below the league average rate. They have not hit for much power. They've stolen 14 bases, so it's a bag every game and a half or so. So really not all that exciting of a team, but that's what's going to win the NL Central, is a team that's got some flaws. Pitching-wise, they've been solid this month. 3.44 ERA, .08 WHIP. Twins running into Wade Miley, who's got a 3.00 ERA and 1.27 WHIP in August. And then Corbin Burns, 3.38 and 1.13 for WHIP. So they're facing 2 guys who are going pretty well. And again, these 2-game series are just so tricky in that it's really hard to get a feel for, one team could sweep easily or the other, and it would make probably not that much sense considering everybody's kind of going with a pitcher they like on each side of each game. But if each team wins one, no fan base is all that happy. It's really hard to get a good grip of what's happening in a 2-game series when it just doesn't feel like a series at all. We'll talk more about the upcoming quote unquote series with the Rangers. It's gonna be curious to see too how the Twins fare against the Rangers and Guardians. Rangers obviously one of the better teams. They'll play the rest of the way, and maybe best in the sense of they're just not going to play that many more good teams. So I'm eager to see it. It's a 4-game series, so you're going to see pretty much everybody on both sides, with the exception of, one starter and a 5-man rotation. So we'll see what happens there. But we need not get too far ahead of ourselves. Again, Twins open the series with the Brewers at American Family Field Tuesday, 7:10 p.m. It's going to be Ober and Miley. You can catch every pitch of the Twins' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search Twins. Make sure you hang out with us the rest of the week. We are going to be talking to, at some point, Pat Light, Matt Cantorino, and then next week, Carson McCusker, Twins hitting prospect who has really come on strong after signing out of the indie leagues. So we'll talk to him about a week from today. Our friend Jake Laymanstan wants to know, where is Cody Funderburk? So, well, St. Paul, or wherever St. Paul is right now. I got to be careful. I'll say St. Paul, and then they'll be on the road, and somebody will correct me in it. Okay, fair enough. Funderburk, big lefty, who is having just a terrific season between Wichita and St. Paul. Really, St. Paul is where he's taken off. Wichita was 9 innings. But in St. Paul, 2.40 ERA and 48 2/3, 71 strikeouts in 48 2/3. So for all the uncertainty I have over, the idea of how his numbers would translate, how his repertoire would translate, etc., to me, it doesn't make any less sense than, for instance, swapping him out for Oliver Ortega. I have no issues with Ortega. I think the stuff's decent enough, but I also really want to get a look at Funderburk. They've got a lot of things to sort out in this bullpen in the next 5 to 6 weeks. That's, can Dylan Floro work into the top of the bullpen? Is he going to stay in the bottom? Who can they trust outside of Duran, Jax, Thielbar? Could Floro work into that mix? Can Stewart get healthy again? Do they have any youngsters who they like in that spot? Whether it's Winder, Louis Varland, any number of guys. Cole Sands has had his moments this year. A lot of those young guys have had their moments. It's just a matter of if any of them can settle into a more stable role here down the stretch. And we'll talk more about September call-ups the closer we get. It's certainly a less of a hot-button topic with only 2 players, 2 roster spots opening up as opposed to the free-for-all that it used to be. But it'll be curious to see how the Twins address some of their needs, because a lot of people, and actually the next question in the chat is, where is Austin Martin from Caden Meads. Do the Twins want relief depth? Do they want utility help? Martin has been kind of playing all over and has really been hitting at St. Paul. He's 24, so it's not as though he's at a point where you got to really worry about, ruining him. First round pick, top 5 pick. College player. There's a lot of things about him that may or may not seem that important, but they kind of say, okay, if you try to get his feet wet here, it'd be pretty hard for it to completely blow up in your face. He swiped 12 bags between the levels this year. He's played 42 games. He's dealt with some injuries, but a 381 on base, 431 slugging at St. Paul, driving the ball a little more with 10 extra base hits. That's been the struggle all along. He's been able to put up pretty good on base percentages in the minors, a 388 mark, but that's been marred by a 360 slug. Now, if he can keep his slugging percentage above his on base percentage, that alone should probably make him a pretty good utility guy, whether he's playing, easy for me to say, playing second base, center field, left field. He's kind of played a little bit of everything. He has not, however, played any shortstop. None. Not a lick of shortstop. But it's been center, left, second. All places the Twins can mix and match, find room for him down the stretch. I'll be curious to see, because he'll have to be added to the 40-man roster this offseason anyway. He's going to jumpstart on it. We're now past the whole thing about service time and whatnot with the last 45 days of the season. So not that would be a huge factor here. It's just icing on the cake. icing on the proverbial cake. But I'd like to see if Austin Martin got the call because while I don't know where exactly he would play on a daily basis, the fact that he can play a little bit all over and has really been playing well, and the Twins could still use some offensive help kind of all over the place, to me makes him really a natural fit for September. But with that said, I mean, what does he give you that Willie Castro once healthy or Nick Gordon once healthy won't? I don't know the answer to that. I don't know that I'm booting Nick Gordon to bring up Austin Martin when I can probably find a way to keep both into the future. So I don't know. We'll see what happens there, but I think Austin Martin would be a whole heap of fun. David Wilson wants to know, how happy should Twins fans be that they won't face the Yankees in the playoffs this year? Honestly, though, I try not to buy into the idea that the Yankees have this hold over the Twins that just will never, ever, ever be overcome, because every Yankees team is different. I look at this Yankees team and, you're just not impressed. They're under 500. Twins won the season series. This is the one time you feel like you could probably exercise some demons against these Yankees. But at the same time, they played the Astros in the playoffs. The Astros had a terrible go of it in 2020. And then they came to Minnesota and knocked the Twins on their butts. So I'll just say this. I think I'm glad the Twins are not going to have to find the Yankees in the playoffs. I think Twins fans would agree. Our friend Devlin wants to know, is Willie Castro the best non-roster invitee in team history? So Willie's hurt now, but just a shade under 2 Fangraphs WAR for a guy who was a non-roster guy is pretty great. I am going to go, though, with Brian Harper. Now, since things were different back then, based on just kind of how I pieced it together, it looks to me like Harper was a non-roster invitee in 88 with a 1.4 Fangraphs WAR. But then the next few years, I think it's 5 years total, he averages like 2-point-something Fangraphs WAR per year. In short, 10-something double-digit WAR from a guy who you, as near as I can tell, signed as a non-roster invitee. So no, I don't think Willie Castro is going to be the top guy on the list. I'm going with Brian Harper because one of the most unsung players in Twins history, never struck out, turned himself into what I think was a pretty decent catcher. I think the issue was nobody knew if he was going to catch moving forward. And so that's why he was available in the first place. But I'm going Brian Harper, but Willie Castro is in that conversation. That's all we have. Absolutely fun hanging out with you guys. We are getting rip roaring and ready for the stretch run. September coming, September call-ups. Will the Twins add to the roster, or will they just stick with what they have like they did at the deadline, and also like they can with guys coming back? Because I still really like this roster. And I know I say that all the time, but I really believe in the talent of this roster to, whether they win 78, 88, or somewhere in between games and the division, I believe in this team to do damage in October. I just do. So we'll see what happens. That said, this is a wrap for this edition of Locked On Twins. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for staying up if you did. We really appreciate that. Make sure you follow Locked On Twins at Brandon_Warren. And if you are watching on YouTube, click the thumbs up, click the subscribe button, leave us a comment wherever you're at. Give us a 5-star review on your podcast platform. Whatever you're doing, we'd love to hear from you. Please tell us what we're doing well, or shoot me a message and tell me what I can do better. With that said, this is Brandon Warren signing off, saying thank you so much, and don't forget to stop by tomorrow. This has been Locked On Twins.